freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
Hey everybody, Cheryl Todd here from GunFreedomRadio, and I am excited to get to catch up in person with my good friend Adam Wilson. He is the author of this awesome book, Tactical Reload. He is a police officer, has served as a SWAT senior operator, and also collaborated with federal authorities in cases involving public corruption. I mean, is there such a thing as corruption in the world? Bit. Oh my goodness.
Here and there.
Right? Sexual exploitation of minors, thank you for that, and corrupt organizations. He received his master's degree from East Carolina and was selected as an emerging leader in North Carolina. We are meeting in fabulous Las Vegas. Welcome back to the show, Adam.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. It's very nice to finally see you in person instead of over Skype and phone calls and text. And so yeah, it's fun to connect.
I know. I mean, thank goodness in today's day and age we have those tools, but there is nothing like being able to actually get in a room together and talk about the important things of the day and the stuff you're working on, the stuff I'm working on. And holy cow, what an important moment in history that we find ourselves sitting together. This is January of the year 2020. Now in January of the year 2020, like yesterday in real time, depending on when you watch this show, that's why I'm trying to be so specific, there was a historic event that happened in the state of Virginia. Mm-hmm. The governor of Virginia, Northam, he, as far as I'm concerned, kind of took the Constitution, tore it in half, tossed it over his shoulder, and said, I'm going to just start making my own rules. There's going to be no guns allowed in the Capitol. Then he said, there's going to be no guns on the grounds of the Capitol. And that is beyond the scope of what he legally should have been able to do.
Correct.
Yet he did it anyway. Thousands of American citizens showed up, open carrying, concealed carrying, and had a peaceful demonstration, protest, whatever you want to call it. And by the grace of God, as far as I'm concerned, and by the wherewithal of the law-abiding American gun owner, there wasn't even so much as a sprained ankle. No.
I think Antifa realized at some point that this crowd wasn't the one to come and probably mess with.
I would think.
And so, I mean, they come off as being pretty dumb, but I think they made a smart decision at this point. But you were mentioning Governor Northam, and the whole thing is complete government overreach. I think there's a lot of talking points coming out of the Virginia legislation trying to, I don't know if he's trying to cover up the blackface scandal and try to make a name for himself in other ways, because he knows that as soon as you start talking about the Second Amendment and taking those rights away, that are it's blatantly written in the Constitution, that you're going to get news clips. And so at the extent at which they did it, I mean, it made national news, but what I think they didn't expect, and it's because they don't understand, is they didn't realize how many patriots from across the country would come to Virginia and show their support, and that it's that silent majority that they took it for granted. And and they seen what happened.
Absolutely, and it was a true testament to who we are as law-abiding American gun owners and Second Amendment advocates and proponents. We are not the aggressors.
Correct.
Right?
Right.
And I think that here's part of the problem with that. If anybody even knows that happened, when I say if anybody, of course, those of us that are doing this work, we were highly tuned in. We knew very much what was going on as it led up to and then took place.
Right.
But there's a lot of ordinary, Joes and Janes out there in America that they haven't heard anything about it. Even people in my own family and sphere of influence, they're like, why do you keep saying Virginia? Like, what's going on in Virginia? And I'm like, how do you not know what's going on? Because until something dramatic that makes us look bad happens,
exactly,
then the news is like.
And they were using the impeachment, in my opinion, as a kind of like almost like a Trojan horse, just kind of a not that they were sliding in with the impeachment, but they were promoting these bills and getting these bills written, knowing that all the media attention and everybody was completely focused on the impeachment. Mm-hmm. And so it was getting to a point that once it started to pick up traction, everybody kind of started looking around, and once the impeachment thing kind of, not that it settled, but it kind of calmed down for a minute and people realized what was going on, and that these law-abiding citizens were getting ready to become felons instantly. And then they try to do a kind of a grandfather type deal or they try to grandfather some folks in with, okay, well, if you have this type of firearm with this magazine capacity, we'll grandfather you and you'll be good, but you need to let us know what you got, and if you don't have it by a certain date, you're going to become a felon. And well,
where is that in the Constitution? I've read it multiple times.
It's insanity. Yes. So if the legislators up there actually understood fundamentally what the Constitution was for, why it was written the way it was written, and also if they knew anything about firearms, they would understand that the laws, it's just talking points. The one that's still getting passed through, they can buy one handgun a month. Yeah. Like it's ridiculous. They're trying to say, hey, well, it's gonna, we're trying to lower the chances of mass murders, and if you look at the statistics, I think it's less than 10% of any actual crime with a handgun. They're very rarely purchased from a store. These aren't the people, these citizens that's going to be affected aren't the ones that they're trying to protect people from.
Correct.
These are the people that I want on my side, right? Yes. And people will say, we're not taking guns away. They're not taking guns away. But if you look at the bill and actually read the bill, every gun I have, I will be a felon. I'm basically just putting a rubber band around a finger and shooting it at people in Virginia, and they'll still call that an assault weapon. And so it's just ridiculous. And the reason I say it's immoral, especially in like the Newsmax article I wrote, is because being a police officer for 15 years, I have witnessed what it is like to actually be a victim. And to take that option of self-defense away is you're getting ready to create a wave of victims, in my opinion, because a firearm, as you and everybody else that watches the show probably know, is the greatest force equalizer that we have. An armed woman is just as powerful as an unarmed man. Actually more powerful than an unarmed man. At the worst case scenario, it at least levels the playing field if you're dealing with a gang member or whomever. Why people think that criminals are going to all of a sudden see these laws and abide by them, it makes no sense to me. And so, I use my wife in the article as an example.
Well, let me just preface. No, you're fine. But let me preface for people that maybe haven't read the article, or maybe they're watching this years later and they're unaware of it. But in Newsmax in January of 2020, Adam Wilson authored an article titled "Virginia's Proposed Gun Laws Are Unconstitutional." And so in that, you're expressing from your unique place in society. Correct. Right? You are an American citizen, but you are also a law enforcement officer.
That's right.
And you're trying to express that, okay, I have discretion as a police officer.
Correct.
And when I am being asked, told, whatever the case may be, to enforce something that was wrong from the get-go because it was unconstitutional, so the elected officials already did the wrong thing.
Right.
And then they want you to enforce the wrong thing.
Correct.
Where does that leave you? So this is what you're writing about in the article.
It is, and one of the things that's aggravating to me with politicians especially is it's almost as if they feel that they can write or make whatever law they want to, and then just say, well, it's the law, police are going to deal with it. Well, it's not your life that's on the line.
Right.
Going to somebody's house to take their firearms.
Right.
I would have much more respect for Northam if he was the first one to be like, okay, you know what, let's go. But I highly doubt that that's ever going to happen.
No.
Because he's just, they're so disconnected from reality at this point. But I didn't sign up as an officer to create what I feel like is more harm to the community, which is what I think that is. I've been met, so it's in the article on record that I would not enforce that. I would, if that cost me my job, okay. It's not like we're raking in $300K a year, right? So I would be okay with that, because for one, I always said that if something compromised my principles or my beliefs, then I would be willing to step away. I would find another way to serve the public, because I feel like that's my calling, as being a public servant. But what I'm not going to do is become a corrupt government tool. And I've been met a lot with, I got a lot of flack back on that article, and I got some hate mail from some folks that just feel like, hey, the law is the law. You don't have a choice in it. Like, you just have to enforce whatever the law is. And they are incorrect at that point. The law, I get it, the law is the law, but there's a lot of gray area and there's a lot of discretion in there. But my argument back to them would be, okay, at what point would you feel that something would be so morally wrong that you would be willing to step away? Like, so with the law is the law, okay, well, where's your line in the sand? What's that line that you wouldn't cross? Or what would it take for you to go like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I'm harming good people. So, so just kind of sum that up. Yeah, I think that would be one that violates my principles and my beliefs, that I think is completely wrong. If taking a self-defense mechanism away from my mom, my wife, and that could potentially cause them harm and not be able to defend themselves, it's not right.
Absolutely. You were ready to say earlier, before I interrupted you, I apologize, that you did talk about your wife in the article.
I did. And so, if anybody's actually read the bill, they'll see a list of just all these firearms. They talk about the magazine capacity this, magazine capacity that, and as I'm reading it, you can almost read in there if you know anything about guns and firearms. And I'm not Mr. Gun. I'm not. That's not my thing. I mean, it is, but it's not. I couldn't.
Right. My husband has an encyclopedic knowledge. That's not me.
He would
That's
maybe
not
look
my thing.
stupid, but I do have a general concept of firearms and what they're capable of, and my own capability. So, in saying that, everybody knows that if let's say a revolver, okay. Let's say it's got 6 shots in it, and you know kind of fundamentally how to use it, but maybe you're not trained enough for that recoil, okay? And that there's a much higher chance of missing your target with that gun as opposed to, say, a rifle. All right, it's much easier to control, but the rifle you'd be basically a felon at that point, so you couldn't have it. And I don't think people understand the fight or flight. What happens to you physiologically whenever there is a true that adrenaline rush. So and just kind of go into it a little bit, and then I'll circle back to why it's important for my wife to have as many rounds as she can. Is, well, for one thing, it's called tunnel vision, so you will lose your peripheral vision and it'll start to narrow. Okay, the one thing that's happened to me before is auditory exclusion. So you will start losing your ability to hear. Once you're starting to redline that adrenaline, you'll start to lose fine motor skills. So the dexterity in your hands will start to deteriorate. Now, you take all of these factors in, and now you give somebody just a few shots. Whenever there may be a very good chance they weren't going to hit that person to begin with, the chances that accuracy level drops significantly.
And how do you know it's one assailant?
Exactly.
How often do assailants travel in packs?
Right.
Right? And
Absolutely.
so you're trying to limit the number of projectiles that I can use to defend, right?
Right.
They love that word assault, right? Assault rifle, assault weapon, which implies that we're the aggressor with it,
right?
Which is a lie, right? Because we use them as tools of defense. right? Or tools of hunting or tools of sport.
Sure.
But yeah, so we don't know how many people we might need to defend our lives against. And so that arbitrary limitation and trying to phrase things in such a way as it's a high capacity. That's a subjective,
exactly.
As opposed,
define
measuring tape are we using to say it's a high capacity or a standard capacity or a teeny tiny low capacity? Like, not enough for me.
Sure, right. And it's they try to use these little assault weapons and common sense gun laws as if to say that anything that opposed that viewpoint wouldn't be coming from a place of common sense. And so, and they try to put these little nasty names like the assault weapons. Okay, well, define for me assault weapon, because the chief in Charlottesville, I can't think of her name right off the top of my head, but she, in a congressional hearing, and it may have been the same one from whenever Diana Muller was in for the famous "I Will Not Comply," she said that all weapons should be banned. Okay, well, they try to get her to define that a little more. She said all weapons, all weapons. Like, okay, well. If I pick up a computer screen and I hit you in the face with it,
is
that
would be an assault?
Should that be banned? Like, where are we going to draw the line at? I am so sick of the government trying to just push their own opinions on us, and it's just the overreach is what really gets on my nerves. So I want the government out of my life as much as possible.
Absolutely.
A few years back they were trying to regulate how much soda, soda. You know what? This is America. Yeah. If I want to go get 22 liters of Coke, go home and take a bath in it, that's what I want to do. Don't tell me what I can do with.
That's true.
And so it's just aggravating whenever they keep on pressing, and then they want to make you a criminal.
It is true. They want to set up a permissive system, a system where we have to ask another human being permission. So why would that human being be, more able to live our lives by proxy than we can live it ourselves? So really, it really should always just come back down to, because I'm a Christian, I was what would Jesus do, right? So as American citizens, I wish we could come back to, well, what would the Constitution say?
Sure.
Right? Because that was earned, right? Fought. These men and women fought, bled, starved, and died.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? And they had a specific purpose in creating these firewalls that said, well, we need a governmental body to do certain things, but when it comes to our personal lives, there's that Bill of Rights, there's that firewall, and that is for you to stay on the other side of Governor Northam and the like. And over the course of time, we American citizens have gotten farther and farther and farther away from that, to where we don't understand what the purpose of the Constitution was, and so we start accepting things like, well, the Constitution gives you rights, or the Bill of Rights gives you, no, it doesn't. It protects rights.
Exactly.
That were just ingrained in us by the very fact that we are alive.
In my opinion too, the Second Amendment is, some people put the first and the second on the same plane, on like an even spectrum or level, and the second is the most important, because that's what protects us from a tyrannical government. That's the one amendment that protects all the other ones. We can't have the freedom of speech or religion without that Second Amendment.
Exactly.
And so when that starts getting taken away, that's when people should really be concerned. And I think that it really woke up the patriots, that silent majority across the country, and they showed up in Virginia and
well, I hope they keep the energy up, because we might feel like, okay, check that off the list, we're done. That was just in Virginia, just in January of 2020, and we're done. No, this is every day.
Every day.
Because the one promise our founders made us was that it would require eternal vigilance.
That's right.
Right? And good men and good women who, understand that, all right, your job is an officer, right? but that as a citizen, you don't check your citizenry at the door.
Sure.
Right? Mm-hmm. When you put on your uniform. And so I very much appreciated and valued that you were able to, in that Newsmax article, kind of bring people into that mindset of this is what is the difference between just mindlessly following orders and
which would happen. There would be some that would do that.
Sure, and you even kind of spelled that out in there, mm-hmm. That there are, different officers might interact with this in different ways, but we don't have to lose our individuality no matter what our job is, right?
Right.
And on I saw you posted on Facebook, and one of the comments, it sounded like somebody that knows you and likes you, but was really struggling inside of themselves because the comment that this person made to you is, oh, so you're just going to pick and choose what you want to enforce.
Right.
And I appreciated your pushback on that. And for our audience, could you, kind of talk about that a little bit? When somebody would say that to you, oh, you're going to pick and choose, your reply is?
I mean, we have an enormous amount of discretion in policing, but whenever something would start to kind of go against our own moral fiber, that's where I think you got to take a good look in the mirror and start figuring things out for yourself as far as how far you're willing to go to actually protect the community. Mm-hmm. If, when I say discretion, I think I used in that same thread that I was coming out of I was at a convenience store one day going in, and a guy runs out with a bunch of stolen food. He was a young kid, mm-hmm. maybe 17. I say 17. Mm-hmm. He runs right into me and my friend that's sitting over there, that's off camera, but runs right into us. Now, I could have taken him to jail, 100%, took the stuff back in, mm-hmm. and that was that. But I didn't feel like in that moment mm-hmm. that was going to help anybody. Mm-hmm. It wasn't going to put him. It wasn't going to put him on the. He was a homeless kid. It wasn't going to put him on the fast track to not stealing food. He's hungry. Mm-hmm. So you got to be able to look at things through a lens of empathy. That sometimes maybe charging somebody and taking them to jail isn't the best course of action. If we start making law-abiding citizens felons, what are we really doing?
Right. What does that serve?
What does that serve? And you're willing as a governor and a legislation to bring in the military mm-hmm. to force what your opinion on, and that is not right.
And the military is made up of individuals. And the rest of that story is great because you said you went into the convenience market and just paid for that stuff.
I'm sorry if I didn't finish. I ended up going in. I just paid for the food, and at the same time, you gotta kind of weigh the risk and reward. So in that moment, I felt like it was better for me to do that. Mm-hmm. Maybe I establish a relationship with this kid. Maybe he sees me later on, and maybe it changes the viewpoint that he has of police. Mm-hmm. But I didn't feel at that moment that was the best thing for the community. And if when it comes to the Second Amendment, I'm not going to take somebody's right away to defend themselves. If I've got to step away and join the uprising, then that's just what I would have to do. Because I feel like I'm a sheepdog, and just like the rest of my friends, you're going to have a group of people that's just going to blindly follow. Maybe they even agree with it. But I think for the most part, there's so many patriots out there that just bleed America, especially in law enforcement, because we see the worst of the worst, and we keep coming back every day. Yeah. I think those people we would step up. We would step up, and we're not going to let our community suffer because of a left-wing politician that's just trying to get news clips.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for what you do. And besides all that, and writing Tactical Reload and writing articles for Newsmax and probably other publications, you also have a podcast. Talk to us a little bit about that as we start to wrap up.
I do. So the show is Tip of the Spear with Adam Wilson, and so it's basically just I love speaking with people like you, and love getting opinions from just in fields that I'm kind of interested in. Law enforcement, it's really law enforcement heavy. And the reason we're at the SHOT Show, we're a SHOT Show rookies, so we're gonna be rolling around with the camera, speaking to some folks. But yeah, find it on YouTube, and it's been fun.
Awesome. Tip of the spear. I love the name of that. And yes, I did get to be a guest. So, bragging rights for me. How do people follow you and find out more work that you're doing? And by the way, the foreword for Tactical Reload was written by Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman.
That makes it legit.
Kind of a big deal.
His name on that book is more important than my own.
Kind of a big deal.
Very big deal.
Awesome guy. And another one that has really studied what he does, like the human mind and the human creature and behavior. And
even when you're talking to him on the phone or Skype and it's not being recorded or anything, he is the same individual as he is on stage.
Exactly.
He is he is so passionate about this stuff. He went on a rant one day and was like, use all of it. I don't care. I can say this other stuff like that. He's like, use whatever I say. I'm like, okay, and but incredible individual. I was so fortunate for him to even pick the book up and take a look at it, and then his willingness to write a foreword for it. So I was very honored. But people can find the book on Amazon, Target, Walmart, Barnes & Noble picked it up. My website is adamlwilson.com. It's got links to a lot of different stuff in there, and then of course the Tip of the Spear with Adam Wilson on YouTube.
Love it. Well, thank you so much. Again, Tactical Reload, available like everywhere. And Tip of the Spear podcast. Watch for Adam Wilson's name in multiple publications. I know people are going to be reaching out to you to have you write from your unique perspective. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you. All right, everybody, stick around. There's always lots more coming up on Gun Freedom Radio.